Let me tell you the truth about Dungeons and Dragons. The majority of old school dungeon masters from the TSR era didn't run a bunch of dungeons. Actually, the majority of gaming was outside of a dungeon. It had nothing to do with a dungeon. And in many cases, it had nothing to do with any dragons either. I hear a lot of opinions from new school people about dungeons and how they were ran and how things went. Yet the majority of dungeon masters I knew had them there for realistic reasons, would make sure the characters were there for realistic reasons, and all that would be covered. And dungeons wouldn't be all they're doing. Honestly, most dungeon masters I know that are old school will tell you they haven't ran a dungeon in years. It's almost like they forgot about them. They've moved on. It doesn't mean that there wasn't a minority of dungeon masters that did the things that you'll hear people complain about today. There's no doubt. All they did was run dungeons, one after another, or maybe the same one if it was a module. And they did all the worst things you could imagine. All the unrealistic things that made no sense, right? As to why you're doing them, as to why the characters are there. Sadly, they did exist. And some still exist today. I'm going to make a case for why new DMs to the old school era, TSR era of D&D, should start with a basic dungeon. Run a basic dungeon for your friends or whoever, your family. Start there. Now let me tell you why you should start there and what it's going to teach you about the game that's going to help you moving forward. A lot of adventuring is going to happen on a grid when it comes to D&D. It doesn't mean it has to be a board game. It's just how you're going to structure adventuring, traveling, moving through the world. When you go down into the dungeon, it's a basic structure. There's hallways, there's right turns, left turns, doors to the right, doors to the left. All kinds of things that you got to deal with as you move through this hallway. You could deal with the doors, you can come to the turns, there might be turns further down. And this is going to be the same when you get to the grid, traveling even on surface. And when you adventure, say, through a forest or you're going through some mountain area, it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a path, there's going to be things right and left, turns that you can take. The structure of everything else is going to match what you do with the dungeon. So you get your players used to this, especially if they're new. You get used to this, and when you leave the dungeon, you'll be adventuring, you'll be doing the same thing. Going forward, on a path, right turns, left turns, the whole nine. What is happening when you're running a dungeon? It's structuring your mind to some type of grid. It doesn't matter if it's in your head or on a sheet, whatever, theater of the mind, or you go miniatures in a grid. Either way, some form of grid will be there for you, and that you'll be playing on that, and you'll be always traveling through the world the same way, going through a path, right or left turns. The exception is getting to cities and towns and stopping points like this, castles, what have you. But outside of that, everything else is the dungeon. It is a good way to teach the game. Have people learning when they don't even know they're learning. They're learning a structure of gameplay that D&D offers, right? At least the TSR era, for sure, offers this structure of gameplay that is grid-like, where you're always moving through the world the same way. So go have that experience, get your head in the right place, get your players' head in the right, your players' heads in the right place, and then go enjoy some Dungeons and Dragons, old school style, TSR. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.